Hi everybody, welcome to week 2. Now that we have set our system with honor lock and all those little housekeeping details, let's get started and I'll give you an overview of what's to come this week and the following week. I'm going to focus for the purpose of this video, I'm going to focus on this week's work, which is the first half of your first module, that's aromatic compounds and aromaticity. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this module that you should be able to see under the module tab of your Canvas. So that's unit 1. And let's talk about some of the items that we discussed last week. One of your major learning outcome is to be able to name your organic compounds, be able to identify the physical properties of your organic compounds, also be able to carry out a method of preparation and chemical reactions. It is important, it is required by the Florida state that you should be able to intertwine what you learn in terms of chemical reactivity of an organic compound and intertwine that to the spectroscopic data to be able to identify the structure of that compound. So we should be able to think critically, apply scientific reasoning. All of those are going to be built in specifically towards organic compounds within this week. Okay, so we have here, this page is divided into 3 sections: the learning outcomes, the activities, and the assessments, and we'll take a look at each of those as we go. So let's just go ahead and get started with the learning outcomes specific to this week. You would be able to, at the end of the week, you would be able to analyze the chemical reactivity and intertwine that with what you learn or have learned from Organic 1 and the review module that we talked about last week in terms of spectroscopy. You would be able to write down the name of a given structure for an organic compound, or you would be able to provide a structure if I give you the name for it. So you would be able to go back and forth between the two. As you know that the properties of organic compounds basically are dictated by the structure of it. So looking at the structure, you would be able to predict the physical properties of these compounds. We will have a lab this week which is integrated with that first learning outcome on spectroscopy and chemical reactivity. You would be participating in a virtual lab as a part A, and after you have gone through those principles, you're going to apply that to an unknown that would have been specifically assigned to you. You would have demonstrated the reactivity of the organic compounds as a major outcome for next week. But within this week, we are going to use our critical thinking and scientific reasoning and be able to communicate what we learn through the labs. You can access the assessments for the week through this assessment tab. You would be able to do this straight from the module as well, or just simply continue to click the next button to get to the page that you need. But each of these is a link that will go to that specific assessment. Before we try to assess ourselves, we obviously should build on that information. So let's go ahead and go through the learning activities and the resources that I have prepared for you. I'm going to go ahead and click on chapter 15. Here I find my introduction, some reminders about resonance that we discussed during our check-in. Here are the steps that you should follow each week. I provide you the PowerPoints and they are in 2 modes. One is a full 1 slide per page type of a mode. The other is a more eco-friendly, if you will. Depending on the resources you have currently, feel free to choose whichever is your preference. Some students would prefer to save that on their tablet and go from there. Some people would do a hard copy printout and then write on it. As I said last week, writing is extremely important to learning chemistry. So you must make a point to have this ready and ahead of time before you start listening to the weekly screencast. Okay, so over here you can either save it on your, so let's just go ahead. If I click on it, it would prompt me to save. So you can either save it on your own computer, or you could just read straight from here, whatever is your preference. That's the handout mode that I was referring to. As you come down, I have provided you the video, the screencast, where I have gone through the entire PowerPoint slide by slide, and we have gone through all the principles, all the rules that you need for nomenclature. This is the way I would do it in class. So that is the importance of having your PowerPoint ready ahead of time, so that when you start listening to the screencast, it's like coming to a class. Absolutely. Within this module, I just don't give you the rules. I actually apply those. That means we are going to be doing a lot of problem solving, additional examples, and I would teach you the journey, how to get to the destination, rather than just give you an answer. So we'll work out a lot of problems, and all of these screencasts are closed captioned. So feel free to use the volume or not, whatever, again, your preference might be. As you go forward, once you have watched the screencast, you must make it a point to practice it in your own time before you actually start seeing the actual assessments for grade. So I would encourage you to look at the nomenclature handout, which comes with its key. You should not be printing out both of those as a question answer, but rather only do the questions, work out the problems, and see if they match with the key at a later time, once you are happy and contented with all of the work that you have done. We also have another set for aromaticity, and there's a key that goes with that. So you would be able to test the knowledge that you acquired this week on aromaticity, anti-aromatic compounds, and non-aromatic compounds. Down here, I have additional resources, which is a file called aromatic overtones. I would save it to your computer because you will be needing that when you do the lab, or even otherwise when you're given an unknown. This is a handy reference of what your IR overtones will look like. So it's a good idea to have access to it at all times. Those are your resources for the week, and once you have used these, once you have practiced, then it's time to carry out the assessments and make sure that you have all of that set for yourself. So here I have the first assessment, which is the Flipgrid assignment. It is very similar to what you guys did in week 1, where you introduce yourself. So everything is essentially as you click the big plus green button, right? And so your purpose, your task would be to record a short video on the problem that I have assigned you. So I would come over here for the assignment sheet. That's where you would find your name and the problem that has been assigned to you. Every student has the same format that you are going to be working on one word problem, and you're going to be working on classifying your compound as aromatic, anti-aromatic, or non-aromatic. But again, show me your work, show me your thought process, and that's what's most important. After you have recorded your own video, you would be participating in a very short feedback to one of your peers, and that will give you about 3 points. So 80% of the credit comes from your own work. The remainder comes from the feedback that you give to your peers, as well as a muddy point that you share. Once you're done with the Flipgrid, You would then come in and you would complete the first half of the lab, which is part A. After completing your first half of the lab, you would then come in and find your name against whichever is your assignment, and you would apply what you learned through the principles within part A onto part B. And this is your formal scientific communication, scientific reasoning, critical insight. This is where you're going to highlight and showcase that. As a last piece to the puzzle, you would participate in quiz 2 for benzene. And if you recall, I had reminded you guys that you would be looking at honor lock quiz this time. And so make sure that you do this on Google Chrome, not on your iPhone. And that is how we are going to complete our module. So next week you would see the second half of the aromatic compounds, and that will be it. We will then move on to alcohols and other functionalities. Have a good week. Stay safe.
Mama.